Welcome back to Gems Podcast. I am the founder and host, Miss Genesis Amaris Kemp. And with me today is Finch. And here's a bit about Finch. He's on a mission to help men, women, and businesses who have lost hope or reside in a state of uncertainty to get off the fence, widely known as Mr. Get Your Ass Off the Fence, because he clears the fence so you can scale or climb over life's hurdles regarding your mindset, relationships, finances, and life. Finch believes everyone has a purpose, and the journey to discovering and fulfilling that purpose can be one that places people in a state of uncertainty. But if they pinpoint their fear, mute their mind, attack their uncertainty, and rehabilitate their confidence, recast their vision, design their direction, and master their procrastination, it will propel them into the purpose they were meant to achieve and the life they were destined to live. And who doesn't want that? He
That part.
also He also hosts the widely successful podcast Off the Fence with Finch, which was named the top 200 podcast list by Apple Podcasts and can be heard globally, y'all. So definitely you are talking to somebody with experience in the game. And today we're going to look at self-development, personal growth, and overcoming those obstacles so he can help you get your ass off the fence. So without further ado, welcome, Finch.
Oh my goodness, that was good. I'm like, is she talking about me?
Oh, so Finch, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So before we go into your subject matter expertise, we're going to have an icebreaker. And I want you to share a fun and interesting fact about yourself.
Ooh, fun and interesting fact about myself. Ah, uh, I think this is both fun and interesting. On a trip out of the country, I was kidnapped and ransomed for shoes. That's something a lot of people don't know about me.
Seriously? Okay, this is interesting. So what country were you ransoming and what type of shoes did you have on that they
Oh, that's another great question. I was in Lima, Peru, and they didn't want my shoes; they wanted shoes. and so, and so it's a crazy story, right? So I'm on this trip. And I'm producing this documentary about the people in this village. And I was brought in by an organization called Samaritan Feet. If you guys have never heard of them, they are widely known every year. I think around November or no March, because it's for March Madness for college basketball and the NBA. You'll see the coaches coach with no shoes on. That's a part of that program because Samaritan Feet places shoes on. I guess they call people who are less than, who are less fortunate, right? And so we went on this trip to Lima, Peru, and the whole goal was to put shoes on as many people's feet as we could. Now, the crazy part about the story I'm about to tell about me getting kidnapped was we went into this village, and on the way up, our handlers are telling us about the do's and the don'ts. And one of the first things they say is, don't go into anyone's house alone because we're Americans, right? And we went into this very poor village. And one of the things that we knew that the villagers did not know was we only had so many pair of shoes because they were not the only stop on this excursion. And so I saw this older woman came to the door, and these houses were like shacks, like you think something out of a movie. And she summoned me to come, and I have a camera in my hand because I'm filming everything. And my first mind was like, "Oh wow, let me go see what she has to say." So she's talking in her native language. I don't understand, but I'm just filming because I'm like, this is good footage. And she summons. She's like, it's almost like the cup on what's that movie with the that Keenan and the Peel? What's that movie called? With a black guy, Daniel Koo, whatever his name is.
I
The
am
lady,
totally
white
drawing
lady
a
had the
blank.
cup. What's the name of that movie?
I have no idea.
So the white lady had a cup, and she used to hypnotize the black brothers with the cup. I can't think of the name of it. Get Out. The movie called Get Out. Remember Get Out? Okay. So she's summoning me like Get Out, and she's saying, "Come and come closer, closer." And I'm walking closer and closer, and the next thing I know, I'm in the house, and the door closes. It's like wow. And so yeah, they kidnapped me allegedly for they just wanted some shoes, and I felt so bad for them because we're going through this little hut house. It's like it's probably as big as a one bedroom in most places. The entire house is big, about one bedroom. And I look up and I can see the sky. They had no roof. And I mean, again, this whole village was poor. And so the second thing they told us was we had to get back. This thing was way up, like when I say at the top of a mountain, it was so far up, it was ridiculous. And one of the other things they told us, well, we had to get down by before the sun went down. We'd probably be robbed and kidnapped for ransom because we're Americans. So that's a fun fact about me. It wasn't fun at the time, but it's fun and funny now. So
Thank you. That is a interesting icebreaker that you were kidnapped for some shoes in Peru. So thank you so much for sharing that, Finch. And you have an impressive background. Like I only shared a bit of your bio because I definitely want to connect with you more. So what led you to really doing off the fence, and why the name behind your
uh,
podcast?
great question. It was kind of like I did radio for a number of years in Atlanta. I used to have an afternoon drive show, and I've been gone from radio for 10, 11 years, and I was really itching. And back in 2018, I had a deal on the table with iHeart and looking to come back into radio. And I was really going to reboot my old afternoon drive show, but it was kind of antiquated. It was outdated. And so a friend of mine was like, "Hey, man, you don't like people being in the gray area. You like to get their ass off the fence. I think your show should be called Off the Fence with Finch." And I was like, money, let's do it. And that's really why I got started, how the name came about. And I got started right at the height of the pandemic because we was out of work. And I was looking like, well, how can I have meaningful conversations with people during this time period and help them with some things and in areas that they may need assistance in. And so I started the podcast, and here we are 4 seasons later. That's really doing well. So
That's amazing and congratulations. And I'm so glad that they helped you with the name, because had you not been doing the work that you're doing, you wouldn't be led to having off the fence. And some people would not be connecting or just hearing valuable subjects from people who are just like them, no matter if
right.
they live in their same neck of the woods or if they're across the pond. I believe that we all have something amazing to share, and that's why I like that you help people overcome their obstacles, but you bring in that self development piece and etc., because all of that is what helps you overcome your obstacles. So let's start walking through that. But before we go into your subject matter expertise, we need to frame it up, because before Finch got to where he is now, Finch had a start ugly moment, and you had some struggles that you had to go through in life. So I see the glamour that you're doing now, but you weren't always glamorous. So tell us what your past looked like, whether it was your childhood, going to adolescence and adulthood, because your foundation helped shape who you were
Right.
today, or helped you reinvent yourself, because you didn't want to go down maybe the same route as some people in your families. You wanted to be a different cut.
Well, I've always been a different cut, and I think we can blame my mother for that. I think it's so humbling that you think we're glamorous, because man, we just get up every day and do the things we love. And I, although I grew up in a single parent household, I didn't have a strong relationship with my father as a kid. I grew up with me, my mother, and my two brothers, and my mother framed me to start thinking differently, which is why I now help people to mute their minds and rehabilitate their confidence because it all starts in our minds. My mother bust me out about an hour and some change from we lived in the hood in the ghetto, and she thought, hey, you know what? I need to make sure that he has a different future than the one that I created for my first child, which is my big brother. And so she bussed me and my middle brother out to a school in a predominantly white neighborhood. And, a lot of our classmates were celebrities or celebrity kids. And well, some of them became celebrities now, but a lot of them were celebrity kids, and so we were surrounded by a whole nother, it was almost like night and day. It's like, I had a whole different life by day than I had in when I got home. And, a lot of my friends in the neighborhood did not understand that mentality because we did not have a project mentality, although we lived in the housing projects. And so when it comes to life and hardships, I really didn't have a lot of hardships because I wasn't privileged to the fact that we didn't have much because of what my mother did. She went out and made sure that we didn't want for nothing. I didn't learn about our struggles until I was an adult later on in life, looking back on that life and how we grew up, and so I formed that mindset because my mother was determined to shape me not being regular, not being basic, and not really thinking like a lot of the people in my neighborhood thought, where well, housing projects and government assistance were the best they could do. No, she wanted us to dream and think beyond what we saw every day. And so she made sure that we were surrounded by a different culture of people. Like, a lot of my school had programs like the Academy of Finance, which I was in. I got a chance to intern in high school with Smith, Barney, Harris, and Upham. I think it's just called Smith Barney right now, but one of the top brokerage firms in the country. And I got a chance to go on trips and see stuff that I normally would not have seen had I went to a school in my neighborhood. And so how I operate and think today is attributed to a lot to what my mother taught me as a kid.
Wow, and that's kudos to all the strong Black mothers out there who are raising, boys on their own because, there's a song that says you can't raise a man. That's a popular song. Well, it was. And sometimes people fail to realize that the seeds that were deposited in them at a young age end up becoming withdrawals later on in life
Mhm.
when they're walking into their purpose or calling. But sometimes you take things for granted until you're actually going through life. And we see how, your mom making those sacrifices for you and your other brother to bus y'all an hour to an hour and a half away to give y'all, the opportunity that your older brother wasn't afforded. And that's a part of personal growth. And that personal
Yep.
growth that you experience by connecting with people who are different than you allowed you to, tap into a creative sense of Finch. And, your strength, you were strengthening because of that. And now you're actually going back and doing that reciprocity and helping other people tap into their own personal growth, their self-development, and overcoming those obstacles. Because had you not went through it and seen a difference between growing up in the projects, not having the same mindset as someone who grew up in the projects, but being shaped by the product of your environment that your mom afforded you the opportunity to go into, do you think you would be the man that you are today, or would it have taken you a lot longer to get to where you are?
That's a great question. A part of me feels like I probably would have never become this man. I probably would became a version, or an abridged version of this man because of some of my had the same experiences been that way like throughout life, not as a kid, but as I've gotten older, then possibly. But I think in part all of that is me being who I am now, and how I view life and how I view people is due to what my mother instilled in me. My mother was the person who taught me about service. Like, my mother taught me about perseverance. She taught me about determination. I saw her go after being in the political realm, being the president of the tennis association in our community. And we used to go to Washington D.C. and lobby on the Hill every year because of what she did. And because of that, this is going to be a groundbreaker. My mother was a part of the nucleus of people who ushered in the government free cheese program, which we now know as something else. But it was her. I used to stand on the back of those big old rigs and hand out free cheese. The government, the big block of cheese that was hard to cut. I don't know if you was experiencing that as a kid or not, but government cheese used to be this big, and it was so good, but it was so hard to cut. And my mother was a part of that drive and that program getting started and being funneled through public housing, and I saw that because she had me on the back of those trucks with her, passing out that stuff and passing out the goods and services to our community. And we created a host of programs in those communities that most people have forgotten about, because she was determined to see them succeed just like she was us, her children. So, yeah, I would not be who I am now without any of that.
That is amazing. Your mother was definitely a hidden figure within her own environment. And now I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the personal aspect with there was three of y'all, so three boys. So your other two brothers, what are they doing currently? And have you interviewed them on off the fence to help get your ass off the fence?
That's so funny. What they're doing now? Uh, you about to get me in trouble. Okay, so my brothers did not necessarily take hold of this is one of those things, even in our country, where you can be given the same information and do something different because of your life choices. And the choices that my oldest brother and my middle brother have made throughout their lives did not move their needle to where it possibly could have gone. And they had the same mother that I had. We all lived in the same house. I just took the information differently and applied it differently in my life. And so it allowed me to accomplish and achieve things because I kind of gravitated to that whole recipe of determination, perseverance, patience, all those attributes my mother tried to instill in all of us. And unfortunately, it didn't take well for my brothers. And no, I have not had them on off the fence at all. It's a I have a my production company produces another show called Family Matters. I haven't had them on that show either. But maybe one day we'll see.
It would be interesting to kind of see how you could kind of step into their life, even though y'all didn't go down the same path. And life circumstances happen, which is understandable because not everyone is going to come out the same. But just to see how you could take your life from the same opportunities that y'all all were given to kind of
Right,
help them get their ass off the fence and say, hey, you may not be where you want to be, but I can help you get there. And it's not that I'm judging you, but I care
right.
so much about you to help you navigate and, step into your highest potential and purpose. And sometimes people are actually, crying out for help internally, but if they are never asked or approached, they may never, come to you because of their pride and their ego. So that's maybe I don't know
That's
why
true.
I felt led to ask you that question, but something, was laid on my heart to ask you that question. So I wanted to impart that into you, Finch.
That's a great question, and I don't even know if, and they could be. It just could be matter of me not knowing, me not being aware of them being on the fence about something in their life. And you're right. I could be the person that assists them move the needle to where it could have been, or where they wanted, desired to be. I think sometimes it's not about what we know; it's about us not knowing how to move to where we want to go. And that's a host of people. You know, a lot of people went to school for a number of things, but yet they still haven't gotten where they want to go because we were taught throughout the system. It's go to school, and it was almost like going to school would guarantee you a different type of life, when in fact that's not the case at all. That's not the recipe at all. And so, yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. And probably, yeah, I got an idea just why you was talking.
Okay, awesome. So, and the reason why I did that because it's going to segue into overcoming those obstacles, because we're all faced with obstacles in our life, whether they're mentally, physically, emotionally, or even spiritually, because some people go through spiritual warfare where they're battling those good versus evil thoughts. But in order to help overcome those obstacles that we are facing, or those inner or outer demons, we have to first do the work inwardly to really examine where we are personally. And once
Mhm.
we examine where we are personally and who we are, and we solidify and know who we are, that's where that personal growth begins to take root and mature.
Right.
So I hope that me adding that piece helps you condition the question that I previously asked about your brothers, if you pick up what I'm putting down.
I pick up what you're putting down.
Okay, awesome. So now I kind of want to ask you, since you've been doing the work that you're doing, because I know you've worked with some Fortune 500 companies,
Mhm.
some as UNICEF, empowering college students to become active architects of their destiny, the National Urban League, Samaritan's Feet, which you talked about that. That's what
Mhm.
led you to go into Peru. Best Buy, Wells Fargo, Auburn University, Microsoft, American Airlines, and FedEx. By working with some of those big companies and well known names and brands, what is something that you've learned from that?
Oh man. Go after what you want so you don't have to settle for what you can get. And relationships you build today can be the bridges to your destiny tomorrow. And I say those two things primarily because all those things, all those companies that you mentioned now, they came by way of a relationship I had with someone. And at the time, how I got a part of the UNCF Empower Me tour, it was myself and acclaimed actor Hill Harper. We toured the country, talking to college students about how to become active architects of their own destiny, and that came by way of a relationship that I had with a film producer who had a relationship with the vice president of Wachovia at the time, which later became Wells Fargo. And because of those relationships, we was able to have a conversation about what a win-win relationship would look like, a partnership would look like. And that's the thing that I've tried to teach people in looking for. I think so many times we have this entitlement mentality where we feel like we're owed something, and if I just get so and so to help me and so and so to do that. And what I learned at the beginning of that, because that UNCF deal was really the beginning of my brand partnership journey, was whenever you're able to create a win-win relationship, you know, I win, they win for being in business with me, I win for being in business with them, and we both can create something memorable. You know, we were the first, me and Hill Harper were the first to do that tour, and they have since gone on to have people like Lamont Rucker, Farnsworth Bentley, Tatiana Ali, you know, let us see, the list goes on, you know. And so, you know, when you think about how you cultivate things and what you learn from your journey, it's always to me about you understanding what value you bring to someone or something, and understanding what value they bring to you, because you know the old saying, all money ain't good money. Yeah. You know, sometimes I think we can tie ourselves to deals and things and people that are not good. Sounds good at the time, but it's not necessarily good for our overall long-term goals or objectives. And I learned back then it's always going to be about the relationships you create. And at this, even at this juncture, with some of the brand deals on the table for me now, I still revert back to the beginning of looking at what this looks like for me and my family. my legacy, and what this will look like for the entity that I'm looking to partner and brand with. Because at the end of the day, if it's not a win-win for both of us, if all I'm going to get is paid a lot of money to do it, and they don't feel satisfied about it, then it's not a good scenario or a good relationship. So those are two things I learned along those journeys, and it just got for me. I just got wiser as I grew and developed. So each one of those deals, um, I got a lot wiser on, especially that Microsoft deal.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. And as you were talking, it shows your character, because you can't be so money driven and money hungry that you begin to compromise your morals
Mm,
and your values at the appeasement of a quick buck. Because then it's like, are you selling yourself or are you selling your soul to secure the bag? Because
right.
you're not going to feel good. Sure, the money can get you what you want, but it may not necessarily satisfy all of your needs. And the big thing that you said was relationship building.
Yep.
Relationship building is so key, because you never know who knows who
Yep.
and how they can mention your name in rooms that you would not be afforded the
Hmm.
ability to walk into. And as you were talking about Hill Harper, I was working for this particular Fortune 500 oil and gas company. And I remember he was one of our speakers for the Black Employment
Hmm.
Success Team. And he signed the book, and he was so down to earth, and just, his topic that he think. But so many people are like, oh, Hill Harper. And I'm like, he's just a human being, just like we are.
Yeah.
But sometimes people get starstruck and they fail to realize that that person is just a human like they are, and
Hmm.
we can't put them on a pedestal, but we can, show them that we do appreciate the work that they're doing in the community, but
Yep.
don't boost their ego so high where their head is about to pop off their neck, you
Oh
know?
man. Yeah.
And
Can I say this two things
yeah.
real quick? One thing that Hill taught me doing this tour, and you're right, Hill is a great guy. I remember one of our stops. He talked to me about having purpose, and he told me you got to surround yourself with people, because again, you got to think Hill was already established. I was really just getting going, and that was really my first major deal at that time. I had some medium sized press up until that point. I had done a few things, but not on that scale. And he taught me a lot about the people you surround yourself with. And I remember him teaching me, like, you have to surround yourself with people who have the same vision for you that you have for yourself. And it was one of those things where I learned so much from him, just by watching and observing, and him the same way. Like, there's a lot of things that he learned about me just by observing. And when you talked about getting the bag and going out the money, George Frazier taught me that a long time ago. Like, I don't know if you know who George Frazier is, but George Frazier, good friend of mine. I met him. We were both at a conference in Philadelphia, and the organizer had reached out to my agent at the time and wanted me to ride to the event that day with George Frazier. So they put us in the car together. And when I got in the car, he said, "Hey," he called me some name, old time Finch or something like that. He said, and it was really just a joke, because it was like you did earlier, it was an icebreaker, because I didn't know him and he didn't know me, and he was famous, and I was just this guy on the rise. And we grew a friendship. And when I was faced with like big deals or opportunities, he was somebody I could call and get advice from. And he taught me a long time ago about money, about chasing money. And he said, never chase money, because you end up pissed off, disappointed, or upset. You know what I'm saying? Because I think so, especially in this day and age. In this day and age with social media, it's all about the bag to people. So they'll do whatever for the what they call the bag, or for the money, not looking at them being a chaser of money. And I've never been a chaser of money. I've turned down opportunities. I've been passed over for opportunities, but I learned that early on in my career. And so many people are not fortunate to learn that at this stage. But I'm not a chase of money. It's got to be the right scenario, and it's got to make sense. And I don't just look at it making sense for me. I always look at it making sense for the people that I'm doing business with, because at the end of the day, we both got to be happy, or it's going to be one of those things where it's like, this not working out. And learning in life, a lot of the mistakes I made back then versus now is, hey, you know what? You want to build long-term relationships with people so that, you can bring that residual check in every year, every month, or however often that deal is.
And thank you for sharing that, those wisdom nuggets, because that's what I like to call them. And as we wind down, I'm definitely gonna impart this to the listeners and viewers. My dad always told me, may he rest in peace, money is the root of all evil. And if you allow somebody to buy you, then it's like they own you,
Mhm.
because you're conditioning yourself to their means of what they want you to do, like a puppet on a string. And when he said that, I didn't understand it until I got, a little bit older. But it is so true, because so many people sell themselves out for a quick buck. And then, whenever they're at home, they're upset, but they're not going to voice it because they already went to buy the things that they want. But those materials, you can't take those with you whenever you close your eyes and you're called home, if you believe in the afterlife or whatever the case may be.
True.
And Finch, as we wind down, I want you to leave the listeners and the viewers with your call to action for this segment. We talked about, self development. We talked about personal growth and really overcoming those obstacles to help them get your ass off the fence with Finch.
In this life that we live, ladies and gentlemen, all the ones in the pews and in the balcony, there are always going to be hurdles on your track. And you might be on the first hurdle, you might be on the fourth hurdle, you may even be on the ninth hurdle. If you ever watch track and field, they lay 10 hurdles on the track for the athlete to jump over before getting to the finish line. And I think when you look at your life and whatever hurdle you are on, you got to understand you were created a hurdler. So you have the ability to simply jump over whatever obstacles are on your track. And if you choke your potential before it has an opportunity to become a possibility, you'll never reach your destiny. So you got to get your ass off the fence and go get it.
Amazing. And Finch, how can the listeners and viewers connect with you? What's your website? And where do you primarily hang out on social media?
Website is it's Finch, its Finch Finch.com. And on social media, it's Twitter is it's Finch. On Facebook and Instagram is where I hang out. It's Finch official. So get at me, holler at me, and come rap a taste with me.
And there you have it, listeners and viewers of GEMS Podcast. Once again, I am your host, Miss Genesis Amaris Kemp. Make sure you subscribe and share this segment. We are found on 40 plus platforms. Also, follow us over on YouTube for all things video content at GEMS with Genesis Amaris Kemp. And we are looking for brand ambassadors and brand sponsors to continue the mission of GEMS Podcast, which is to educate, inspire, and motivate while connecting the dots and bridging the gap between diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, because it takes all of us to bring this world together and really create those synergies. So head on over to genesisamariscamp.net to figure out how you could donate and contribute monetary wise, or any other ideas that you may have. And don't forget to leave us a review. Until next time, peace, love, and lots of blessings. And in the words of Finch, get your ass off the fence.